Aeration, how important it is in compacted soils. As you can see here, this core aerator should be 70 mils to 100 mils deep, and it has only taken out a 20 mil core. That's very compacted soil. A 40 mil core, that's broken in half now. Another 20 mil core. So we go through and we have a look. This whole entire area, this is on top of a hill. Now, the reason why we do the top of the hill is because there is it's got nothing to do with the lawn. It is all basically helping this location come alive. Why? Because compaction stops plants from growing, stops moisture evaporation, stops moisture from being able to get into the soil profile. All through here has been aerated as well. So this is another major factor. Now, when we have a look at this, the whole entire property is currently trying to grow, but due to compaction, it's struggling. So what we've done is we've come in with core aerator and aerated all the locations all the way through here. And that is to restore the plant's ability to grow naturally. You can see the core aeration in the walkways, but you can also see all the core aeration in between all the plants. Then you come down here, and as you can see, we've core aerated this, and it's really struggling. This is really struggling through here for the simple fact that the plants are super compacted. Even though they've got everything it needs, it's still struggling. So all the core aeration through here, all has been done. All the core aeration up through here. So basically now this should come alive. As you can see, there's more oxygen, more aeration holes. So now this should allow these plants to take off. Basically, the reason why they couldn't was because it was compacted. And then up through here, the walkways, they're all compacted, so they seem to struggle too. But we've gone through and core aerated once again. Then we come up to a worm farm. Now this has been oversown with radish seed, fungi, and all sorts of goodies. Now what will happen here is these radishes will end up growing and breaking down, and then the worms will have a food source to start to grow abundantly. So we come up to some self-planted spinach leaves. They've been placed in here to grow, and you can see there's a nice surface area of growing material on top of here. That is all going to feed and support the growth of the worm farm, and this can be done on any hilltop. Earthlove Global are the leaders in providing natural methods in growing abundantly and naturally in all ecosystems. This looks like it's been pushed over, but it will all stand back up by itself, and there's been a whole heap of aeration core holes gone through this location and in here as well. So this seems to struggle in here because it is very compacted. And look at the difference between the top of the hill and down. Down is growing really well, but up here isn't. And that's because whatever's on top of the hill, which is nothing, feeds the rest of the ecosystem. So the worse it is up the top, the worse it is down the bottom. Get the top right, you get the bottom right. And so that's it. That's basically how to regen large-scale landscapes across Australia by the Earthlove Global team. We're here to help you and guide you into growing naturally, abundantly, and vigorously. So we'll be back next week with another video in regards to soils and how to restore your landscape naturally, vigorously and abundantly. We have here, we'll give you a rough idea. We'll take you down into the, hey buddy, little bird. We'll go through, and as you can see, people have gone through and they've planted out all the plants. Now up here seems to be struggling. Why is that? Well, above that there's not much food source, so this struggles here, but then the food source starts to feed this area and then it gets better and better. But why does it stop all of a sudden? Well, here's the explanation. All that above us has been sprayed with the compost tea. Now this is not sprayed with the compost tea. Look at the difference. Can you see the difference in the growth between spraying with the compost tea and not? It's evident in the rest of the growth as well, that when you look after the top of the land, eventually the bottom will be looked after. And it doesn't matter what ecosystem or what type of land or soil that you're growing in. Earthlove Global have worked in every soil type right across the world, in every environment, and it all comes back to the same foundations every single time. And look at the difference in this location here. Now look at the plants over there, planted all the same time. Now look at the plants here, planted all the same time. What's the difference between all those and that location to here? Do you know? Can you imagine what it is? It's the food source above the hill, on top of the hill, that washes down and feeds this. Guess what? Look down here. Where's the food source? There's hardly any food source up here. There's no worm farm. There might be a little bit of a worm farm under the trees, but those trees will be absorbing a lot of those nutrients. Don't ever cut trees down on top of your hills. It's the worst thing you can do. Work with the trees and increase the worm farm, and then you'll have growth below it. Or set up worm farms on top of all your beds. I did advise on this project to do that, but they didn't have the time or space to do it. So that is the end result. Look at that. Huge difference between having a worm farm on top of your land and not. Look, it gets better and better and better the further you go over closer to the worm farm. All the nutrients that wash off. Look at the pastures and the ecosystem down here. It's thick, it's luscious, but above the worm farm, beside it, struggles. See that? But yet when you come down here, all these pastures and cover crops were planted at the same time. Look at this. Look at that. Look at the growth. There is hardly anything in there. It's struggling. Now this was all compacted soil. Look at here. It's growing pretty good here. And the difference is that here's been nurtured, here's been just left to its own device to grow by itself. So if you want to